Welcome back. With an investment property, what you want to avoid are hassles with your tenants. There are enough things that can go wrong when you're letting a property, so if you can get these things fixed before they move in, chances are you'll save yourself a great deal of money and aggravation down the line. Firstly, the heating. Make sure it works, and if necessary, pay a little extra for a guarantee which gives the tenants an emergency call-out number, so you're not disturbed at a very inconvenient moment. The damp. The last thing you want is tenants calling you out saying that there are mushrooms growing up on the inside of the walls. In fact, this happened to me with one of my properties. It developed dry rot, a very expensive disaster to remedy, all because the builder didn't give me the option of spending an extra £3 for 3 air bricks. Had he done so, my tenants would not have had to contend with huge mushrooms that kept sprouting up all over the bathroom and kitchen walls due to a lack of subfloor ventilation. It's amazing that so many damp companies go out of business within a few years of opening their doors. You'd think that since most old houses have a bit of damp and people tend to have it treated to prevent major problems from developing, there would be enough work to keep these properties afloat for years to come. The reality is that many companies will give you 10 and 20-year guarantees, but a couple of years later they're out of business. And on the odd chance that a company is still in business, their policies are downright ludicrous. 4 years ago, I had a whole house treated for damp, and they gave me a 10-year guarantee. When I called them out to look at it a couple years later, they tried to hit me up for another £110 before they'd come out. Their new policy was that if they determined that the damp had come back and it was their fault, then they'd fix it. Otherwise, they wanted nothing to do with it. So make sure the damp company you're dealing with is reputable. The roof. Tenants having to use buckets to catch water pouring in have a tendency to lose patience very quickly and to withhold their rent. A ceiling could fall down and injure your tenants. I've had more problems with roofs than with just about anything else in my property investment career. Flat roofs are often the biggest nightmare. They usually last 10 years, sometimes more, sometimes less, but they're always a problem at some stage. My offices had 3 flat roofs, and finding someone who is exceptionally good at doing flat roofs is a real ordeal. I had 5 different roofers come out to bid for the job, and I had 5 different recommendations. The first roofer said they were fine, and they'd last me another 5 years. The second roofer told me to put a coating of tar over them, and that would seal them for a good few years. The third one told me to build up the roof with plasterboard, and then it would be even and drain away properly. The fourth roofer told me that he could recover the existing roof with more felt, and that would do the trick. Finally, the fifth roofer told me that the whole roof had to be stripped away and back to the very bones, and then built up from the start. I went along with the fourth roofer, who wanted to recover the existing one with the better quality felt. I was assured by my master roofer that this roofer was good, but whenever I looked at that roof, there was always a huge pool of water sitting in it, and it looked as though it would leak at any time. I keep thinking that a roof should have water draining away from it, not sitting in it. I've since sold that property, but sometimes I wonder how long that flat roof lasted and whether it still has water sitting in it to this day. The plumbing. Have the plumbers check all the appliances, drains and gutters before the tenants move in. At one of my properties, the tenants would regularly phone me, saying there was water leaking down into the lounge ceiling from the upstairs bathroom. The dangerous element here is it would frequently be coming in through the electric light as well. Several plumbers came out to look at the problem. One plumber said that the problem was the silicone around the bathtub, so he whipped it around and for about a week it was fine. Then it started leaking again, and I had another plumber come and look at it. This one said it was a leak in the pipes under the bath, and he replaced the pipes and said it would be just fine. Not so. Another plumber came out and said that the bath was not even and needed to be put on a piece of plasterboard and made even. So they ripped out the bathtub and then put it on a piece of plasterboard. This held for about 6 months, and then it started leaking again. When yet another plumber came out and told me I had to replace the whole bathroom and ceiling, I ushered him out the door. The last plumber I called in had a simpler solution. He replaced all the tiling around the bath, regrouted it, and then put in new silicone. That lasted a year until I sold it, and I only hope that the new owners have not had further leaks. The saying "adversity is the mother of invention" was very true in another case of one of my properties. The toilet had an enormous big copper pipe coming out of the seat at the back. It looked awful, but each plumber who looked at it said it was best left alone. They said if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it was working, so I opted for not fixing it. Instead, I painted the pipe a cream colour to match the walls and sold the property as is. The electrics must be checked by a certified electrician who gives you a document stating that they are safe to use. Basically, anything that involves the structure or safety of your property must be seen to as a matter of priority. The risk you run otherwise is that your insurance cover may be invalid. So the areas you can afford to economise on with a rental property are the carpets, the appliances, the paint job and the curtains, the quality of the fittings in the kitchen and bathroom. The areas that you must take care of are the plumbing, the electrics, the roof, any damp, the heating cooling system and the washing machine and dryer. Make sure they're in good working order. I had an email from a viewer from last week's show. Jane S. writes, I did as you suggested and got 3 quotes for an extension to my home. Each prospective builder has had a set of plans and therefore they should be quoting from the same hymn sheet. However, their prices range from $45,000 to $95,000. What would you advise? Well, make sure they're quoting for exactly the same amount of work. Is one of them, quote, including materials while the other isn't? Make sure you get references for each builder and go and inspect the work they've done. Don't take somebody else's word for it. Get some more quotes and don't rush into anything. Take your time and get some more recommendations. Next week we'll be discussing renting your property out and the difference between official and unofficial tenants. See you next week.